Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk to you about topical steroid withdrawal. And if you're watching this video, I'm really sorry. You're probably going through a really tough time right now. Either you or, someone that you love, and that's why you're watching this video. Topical steroid withdrawal is just debilitating. It's probably one of the worst things I think a human being can go through. So, I'm sorry. I have some, useful information to share with you. I also have a ton of tips. I'd probably do an entire video just on tips about topical steroid withdrawal, how to, survive it, how to stay comfortable, what to eat, what vitamins I took, how to dress, how to deal with, the whole how to deal with it just mentally, how to pass the time so the months go quicker. If you're interested in any of those videos, just comment below because I'd be happy to make them for you. I started topical steroid withdrawal in 2017. So that was... I probably did it like towards the end of 2017, so it's probably been about 4 years. Probably looking at me now thinking, oh my god, her skin looks, pretty good. My camera has a natural filter on it, so I actually look a lot better than I am. However, I am so much better than when I first started withdrawal. And I just want to make it clear that even though I'm 4 years into topical steroid withdrawal, I haven't been sick for the full 4 years. I was actually doing really well for like the last year until I had my COVID vaccine jab. I had my first one, and that pushed me into like a full body flare. So this is what I looked like around 2.5 months ago. This was in May, and this is what I look like now. I wouldn't say I've totally healed from that last flare. I still have wrinkles here and here, and that's because my eyelids swelled so much underneath as well as on top. But you can't really tell. My neck is also peeling, but you just can't. But I thought I would just tell you about what I went through and my usage as well. I started using steroids when I was a child. I was probably around 13 at the time, and my doctors didn't, I'd had eczema since I was a child, and back then it was very different because nowadays, doctors will tell you to do like an elimination diet, or, your kid might be allergic to milk or something. Back then it was sort of like, oh, she's just got eczema, give her steroids, just give her steroids. I stayed on steroids for years. I used them probably every day. I've been on steroids from, low potency up to the very strongest. And then eventually I even started using immunosuppressants, not the drugs, the topical creams. But the one thing I will say is I've never used oral steroids. So that's the one thing I've never used. And I'm actually quite glad I didn't use them because they can hurt the system slightly more than using creams. I was on steroids for years and years. I would sometimes lather it like moisturizer. That's what my doctor told me to do. Completely wrong. Well, now I know it was completely wrong. I can't believe I did that. I would have to lather it on my legs, and my legs were just, ruined. I used it on my face. I didn't really use it on my eyelids, but yet my eyes have been really badly affected. Like I've got extra eyelids where a normal person wouldn't have them. And when I get sick or when I flare, they actually tend to get worse. And one day in 2017, I was working in a really stressful corporate environment, and it just brought out some really bad eczema on my skin. It was up here, and I started to apply some steroid creams. Normally it goes away the next day, but it wouldn't go away. People at work were noticing. They were like, oh, you're a bit red up here, And I was so self-conscious. And every time I applied more and more steroids, it wouldn't go away. I was at work and my face just kept burning, and it was constantly burning, and I would touch my cheek and I'd be like, oh my god, why the hell is it so wet? Am I crying? I couldn't understand it. And one day I woke up and my eyes were swollen, and I was like, okay, well, this is different. I've never had this before. This is more like an allergy. And I went to the doctor, who was just like, oh, you need more steroids. Here, have some more. I was like, I don't want steroids. It wasn't until a little bit later that I realised, okay, I'm going through topical steroid withdrawal. And that's because I found all the blogs online. And then I thought to myself, well, if I'm ever going to withdraw, I might as well do it now. I'm not going to go on to stronger and stronger creams. And in 2017, I just made the decision that I wasn't going to take any more steroids, and I was going to withdraw. And I set myself a time limit. So I said, okay, if I'm not well in 1 year's time, then I will think about immunosuppressant drugs. So like in the UK, you can have methotrexate, cyclosporin, and I think Dupixent, if that's how you pronounce it. But you can't get to Dupixent unless you've had the other two drugs, or that's what I was told anyway. They told me I'd have to go onto methotrexate first, but I've heard it's quite a strong drug, so I didn't want to go on it. I wanted to give my body time to see if it could actually heal on its own. The hardest thing about going through TSW when I did it also was I had to work. I couldn't stay at home, and I didn't know about moisture withdrawal and no moisture withdrawal. If you know what that is, I can do a separate video on it. I didn't know about that. So I was still showering every day, and I was still moisturizing my skin every day, and it was still burning like crap, and it was on fire, and it was peeling, and it was red, and it was swollen, and I couldn't understand what the hell was going on. And showing up to work every day when you look like that, it's just so humiliating as well, because people don't understand what you're going through. And it's not like TSW is a very short explanation. You kind of, if someone says, what are you going through? You go, well, I'm going through TSW. And just so you know, that stands for this and this. This is what it means. You can't do that. It's just, people don't want to hear it. No one really cares. And it is tough because also I would face the window, and you naturally find yourself like hiding from sunlight because you don't want people to see you in sunlight. You don't want people to see all the imperfections that you have. I ended up having to quit my job because my skin got so bad. I still remember the day that I went to Brighton Hospital, or somewhere in Brighton, and the dermatologist there basically had an argument with me and called me stupid for wanting to withdraw from steroids. He said I would never recover and that I would continue to get worse. A lot of people in the medical profession are going to have that opinion, and that's fine. I think it will take a few more years possibly for TSW to be recognised. I mean, I was during 2017, no one knew about it then, and now it's 2021, and there's slight recognition for it, but I think in a few years' time, hopefully there will be even more. I was really lucky to find a dermatologist who he didn't fully understand TSW, but he supported my decision to not want to take steroids. He would order me blood tests, he would give me antibiotics if he thought I had an infection. He would offer me sleeping pills, just things to make me comfortable as I was going through the withdrawal process. I got signed off for 3 months by this dermatologist, and he said, you can work from home. So I work from home, but even that was bloody exhausting because I was so tired because my adrenal glands were trying to get into gear. It was really, really tough. And I remember even being in the hospital one day and being yelled at for, well, why aren't you working? And I'm like, well, first, I'm signed off sick. And secondly, I'm just too tired for this. So I ended up quitting my job because I was like, I just can't handle it anymore. And I went and lived with my parents. And I just basically went through the withdrawal process, and it was horrible, like absolutely horrible. I don't have a huge amount of photos of myself, especially in the first few months, just because I felt like I couldn't look at myself. I couldn't take pictures of myself. I found it really, really hard. But as time went on, I started an Instagram account. I started taking pictures of myself. And then it was, as I started to see progress, I got a little bit more hopeful. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I won't have to go to immunosuppressants at the end of the year. People, not everyone gets topical steroid withdrawal. It's just, I can't tell if it's a common thing or if it's just a rare thing. But, I know loads of people who have used steroids and they've been absolutely fine. They've had no, long-term symptoms. So I have heard it is something to do with a gene mutation. Not everyone has it. But apparently if you have that gene mutation, you're more susceptible to have, going into withdrawal. And the one thing about topical steroid withdrawal is that healing isn't linear. The withdrawal process is a bitch in itself because it's not like a regular illness where you're sick and then slowly over time you get better. With topical steroid withdrawal, you are going to be sick for quite a while because you will get very, very ill, and then you might get a little bit better, only to just get worse again, to then get better, to then, get worse. And you'll continue to have flares, and you'll go up and down until eventually you won't flare anymore. And the idea is that these flares will get less intense over time. So it will be easier for you to manage, and your body will start to figure out, how to produce its own natural steroids. One of the reasons that topical steroids are so bad for the body is because it makes your adrenal glands very lazy. So if I had a rash like a few years ago, my adrenal glands wouldn't know how to, produce its own natural steroid to be able to, heal that rash, because it would say, oh, well, I don't need to. She's getting it from a cream. I don't need to do anything. So when I stopped using the cream, my body didn't know how to heal anything. My adrenal glands were so lazy, and I think it took about 3 months before I could start to see progress. And in that 3 months, you will be so tired. While your adrenal glands try to figure out, what to do, how to kick, get into gear, you will just feel so drained and so tired. I remember on Christmas Day, I think I was up for maybe an hour and a half, and then I just slept through the entire day. And then I steadily just got better over time. I will say one thing though, the environment that you stay in can have a massive impact on how you heal. So to give you an example, I stayed at home in my parents' house, which was a very, very old house. And there were times where I felt like my healing was I wasn't healing at all, I was just staying the same. So I went and I then stayed with at my boyfriend's flat. And his flat is a new build. So there is no mold. I mean, there wasn't mold at my parents' anyway, but it's just being in that different environment in a new building made a world of difference. I mean, I didn't heal overnight in 24 hours, but when I stayed there after a couple of weeks, I could really see some improvement. So sometimes where you stay can have a big impact on your healing. Also the quality of water, whether you're staying in a hard water area or a soft water area, the central heating, whether or not, the place you're staying in has carpet or whether it has laminate flooring. All of these environmental factors can make a difference to your skin. So that's another thing that you need to consider. Diet is also a huge one. I will do a whole separate video on diet if you want. But what you eat when you are withdrawing, I think, is really important. Some people will tell you that you can eat whatever you want. And I think Dr. Rappaport also says it's fine, you can eat whatever you want, just be sensible about it, make sure it's healthy. For me, I am a vegetarian. So when I first started withdrawing from TSW in 2017, I didn't eat meat. I did a really, really intense diet for the first 3 months where I would only eat raw foods or like healthy foods. Like I wouldn't even have salt and pepper. I wouldn't even put butter in my food. Everything was just the bare minimum, and it was all fruit and vegetables. And I lost so much weight. You will lose weight anyway because your skin is oozing and you're going through something massive in your body. So you're just going to lose the weight like crazy, but don't worry, it will come back. But I went to the extreme. I can't say whether or not it actually helped. But I will say in my most recent flare that I had a couple of months ago, I started to eat meat because I realised that when you ooze, you lose a lot of protein. So I was eating a lot of cottage cheese, I started eating salmon, I started eating chicken, and I have to say that I think I healed faster the second time round than I did the first because I ate meat. But it's also difficult to say. It could just be that perhaps my body after all this time kind of knew what to do and it kicked into gear and it helped me heal. It's really, it's really tough to say. And then obviously if you don't eat meat, that doesn't matter. You can find protein through, beans and lentils and other things like that. But I'm just kind of telling you, what I went through. I could also do a food diary if it's of interest. The one thing I will say is that I don't drink alcohol. I do, but I haven't in a couple of years. I also don't drink any tea or coffee because I know caffeine and alcohol can be really bad for the skin. So they're two things that I gave up and I don't have anymore. I am an absolute sucker for sugar. I will eat so many biscuits, so many chocolate, that I can probably eat about 12 to 13 chocolate bars a week, easy. So that's another thing that's really bad for you, but I am trying to give up. Supplements as well are a great thing to take. I could do a whole video on the supplements that I went through. You will, at the beginning of TSW, you will spend your money like crazy. You will buy CBD oil, you'll buy fish oil, you will buy rosehip oil, you will buy, I don't know, quercetin, and like all these other vitamin pills that you think you need. But really the only thing that is going to help you is time. And I know that really, really sucks, but that is true. And also you are not going to get better from anything that you could apply on your skin. And that is the truth. Your healing will be done internally. So if you really want to get better, you need to nourish your body from the inside, because nothing you put on your skin, no cream, no oils, no lotions, nothing is going to make your skin better until your body decides it wants to do it from inside. Everyone has a different healing journey when it comes to topical steroid withdrawal. No, you're not going to find two people who have the same journey, but there are a lot of similarities that I have noticed from, looking at people's Instagrams, from talking to them, and just being on the Facebook group for TSW sufferers. Some of the symptoms in your early stages, so I'd say probably maybe month 1 to 3, but some of these carry on. The obvious one is that you are going to get very red. When I first withdrew, even though I had used topical steroids for my whole life, and I've used them quite heavily, I thought I was going to be one of the worst hits. Like, I thought I was going to be, in bed for months. I thought I would have a full body flare for sure. I had eczema on my hands, a little bit on my legs. My stomach was clear. My back was really, really bad. My neck was bad, but my face was hit really, really hard too. But I know one girl who took maybe a week's worth of oral steroids, and she had a much worse, withdrawal than I did. So please don't be afraid that just because you're a long-term user, you're going to have a bad withdrawal journey, because that's not necessarily the case. I mean, it's not going to be pleasant, but it doesn't mean you're going to have a longer journey than anyone else. Everyone's body is different. One of the things you can expect, and I would say these mostly are in like month 1 to 3. The first one I would say is eye swelling. So I was very swollen up here, to the point that my eyelids are, I think my eyelids are now really uneven. They look even here, but they're not. And I'm also swollen down here because I'd had these 2 lines here, which I don't normally have. So that hopefully will go away in time, and it did from the first time I flared, so I just kind of have to wait. But eye swelling can be really uncomfortable. You will also rub your eyes a lot. I rubbed my eyes so much that they were bruised. I'm itchy now. I rubbed my eyes so much that I think I stretched the eyelids above my eyes, and now, well, I probably need surgery to get them back to normal, because I just feel like they're so saggy and they're so big. You will rub your eyes a lot. My eyes, I rub them all day. My vision also went downhill. Your vision will be bad as well for the first few months, but as you get better, don't worry if it's a bit cloudy, it tends to get better. If you did use steroids on your eyes, then you could have cataracts, so make sure you go and see an ophthalmologist or an optician about that. It doesn't happen to everyone, but I do know some people who did develop it from using steroids on their face and near their eyes. Another symptom I would say is you will have trouble regulating your temperature. So you will feel cold even if it's like 30 degrees outside. You will be shivering. Like in the middle of summer, I would have a heated blanket because my body couldn't regulate my temperature. I was always shivering. Number 3 is the obvious change to your skin. So your skin will go very, very red. It will be very hot, and sometimes, it will burn, basically. I would personally say it burns more than it itches. Well, it did for me anyway. It would just burn a hell of a lot. And sometimes the itch would be so intense, like it would be as if it was under your skin. A lot of people have nerve pain, but I think this tends to come a few months after you've started. Like, you can just get random pains and they can be awful, but you can get medication for that. You can also suffer from insomnia. Insomnia is actually quite a big one because you'll be up all night itching and your skin will burn. So that's a big one. A lot of people don't sleep. People will go for and get sleeping pills. That can obviously help you, but remember, obviously, you don't want to withdraw from one drug just to get hooked on another. So just be really careful with that. The insomnia doesn't last forever. You will find yourself eventually sleeping. Somebody once told me there will come a time when you will go to bed and your sheets will feel like paper. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean my sheets are going to feel like paper? And actually, I think about 5 or 6 months into withdrawal, I went to bed one night and I had like 100% cotton sheets, and I pulled them up over me, like my duvet. And I was like, what the hell is this? It honestly felt like cardboard, like paper, and I couldn't understand it, but it was just so bizarre. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what they mean. And it's just that everything is going to feel different on your skin. You will have oozing. You will ooze, depending on where you're flaring. If you have a full body flare, my heart goes out to you, because dealing with the ooze is absolutely awful. You will ooze everywhere. You can ooze from the insides of your ears to your belly button. If you have TSW on your nipples, which I know some people have, you can ooze there as well, which I imagine is probably very painful. The shedding as well will be kind of horrendous. You won't realise how much skin a person can shed, so definitely invest in a good hoover. Or what I have is one of these, which is like a tiny little mini hoover. So I'm a lot better now, so I don't really need to use it. But if there's ever like little tiny little bits, you can just turn this on and it hoovers it straight away. I have lots of little gadgets actually and little tips like that. So if you want to know more, please do comment below and I will do a whole video on that. Another thing is that you might be really sensitive to the outdoors. In my most recent flare that I had in May, I was completely red, but also it was on my scalp. So it kind of followed my lymph patterns on the back of my head. So I had TSW all on my scalp as well. My hair was falling out like crazy and I couldn't stop touching either, which really didn't help. When you have loads and loads of open wounds on your scalp and even on your skin, if a breeze goes past, it is so painful. I remember waiting for the train and just standing there as, you know, just the gentlest of breezes went past and I was almost sick on the platform from the pain, because it was just, oh God, it was awful. The symptoms I think people don't really talk about is just the mental toll that TSW is going to take on you. So the other thing as well is that when I was due in 2017, it was a completely different story. If you have just withdrawn in, you know, the COVID-19 pandemic, you have been so lucky because everyone has been at home. Whereas when I withdrew, I was the only one at home, and it's tough when you see your friends kind of moving on with their lives, when they're going to work, they're going to parties, you know, they're going to weddings, things like that, and you can't do that. You feel very stuck and you just feel really sad, especially when you're on your own. Like I spent weeks indoors. I spent weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks indoors. It's really important to have some sort of support. If you can't find support in your friends and your family, there are groups on Instagram, there are groups on Facebook. You can also reach out to me and you can talk to people, because so many people are going through this. You know, you are not alone. This is a really awful condition and it's really important that you don't do this by yourself. You will also lose friends. I mean, I lost friends. I thought I had really great friends, and some of them knew I was sick, never checked up on me whatsoever. I have other friends who would send me things like tubular bandages and zinc cream in the post. It's just, some people, you know, people tend to show you their true colours, especially when you're ill, and you'll know who cares for you and you'll know who doesn't care for you. And people who are your friends will understand why you can't come out. They'll know why you can't come to their parties. They'll know why you can't come to their birthdays, that sort of thing. So just, you know, be kind to yourself and take the time that you need to heal. The most important thing about TSW is to remember is that it is an illness. It is a really serious illness that you know, a lot of people don't understand. And you won't be like this forever. Give yourself a time limit. So I gave myself 1 year. And if I hadn't healed after a year, I said I was going to go on immunosuppressants. Now, I'm not saying you do the same, but give yourself a year and say, okay, well, you know what, I'm going to give myself a year. If not, then I'm going to do this. And kind of take pictures of your skin as, you know, over this time. See how you progress so you can look at your journey. And you'll find that it gives you hope, because you might feel down, but then you'll look at a picture of yourself from maybe 2 months ago and go, okay, actually, look how far I've come. You know, you kind of have to look on the bright side of things. And just make the most of the situation that you're in. And remember that you will not always be ill. Like, you are going to get better. It just takes time. And I know that's really shit to hear, but you will get better. So